When Negoiță appeared at the threshold, before anyone could ask what and how, the young woman, calmed from her shaking, ordered, as if healthy, to remove the sheets, looked straight at him, began laughing cheerfully, as if greeting a long-awaited old friend, and motioned him to come closer,
calling him by name. "Welcome, dear Negoiță. How are you? Doing well? Come closer. I want to tell you something, so no one hears."
who could believe their eyes and ears. Negoiță pushed everyone aside, approached the sufferer kindly.
"Darling, forgive me for making you wait a bit, but you don't know how difficult the road and how tough the horse I had." "It doesn't matter," replied the demon very softly. "From now on, I've enriched you. I owe you nothing. Therefore know, Uncle Negoiță, that this is final. Should you ever see you follow my trail, not only will you gain nothing, but I'll also get angry. Well, you might really regret it. That's all I wanted to say."
The demon vanished, and naturally the sufferer regained consciousness, perfectly healthy as before, perhaps even livelier.
Now with what gifts and honors did the Kaymakam Lolugwitska? You can imagine yourselves. He gifted him with a decree, a village to possess forever, and additionally ennobled him.
Now living in luxury, beyond his dreams for about 3 months and more. But one day, precisely when he was enjoying his aristocratic siesta after lunch, with coffee and pipe on the porch of his country estate, he saw in the distance, on the road coming from the south,
a whirlwind of dust approaching. What could it be? It was some servants from the court, rushing with urgent orders to bring him immediately to Craiova.
Negoiță didn't like being disturbed during his siesta.
But what could he do? Upon reaching the court, he kissed the ruler's hand. The latter embraced him, kissed his forehead, and said,
"Most beloved brother Negoiță,
if you care for me even a little, depart without a moment's delay. The carriage is ready. On the road post horses await from station to station. The daughter of his highness, the prince, the princess, is possessed just as my wife was, perhaps even worse according to the messenger received. Only you can save her. I burnt myself," thought Negoiță. But he couldn't say anything.
The Kaymakam embraced him, helped him into the carriage, and off they went, the coachman whipped and spurred, followed by shouts and cries. By the next day, at the time of evening prayer, they brought Negoiță, worn out, to the princely palace in Bucharest.
The prince and princess met him at the top of the stairs, wringing their hands, and the prince shouted in Greek as in nobility spoke. Then, "Ah! God has sent you, noblemen! Welcome!" But Negoiță, who speaks Greek, replied in a daze.
"Who seeks finds your majesty, but who searches? Let's search! If possible, I'd be happy too. Let's see. Come." In saying this, the prince pushed Negoiță all the way to the inner chamber at the end of the hall. There sat the princess on a low carpet, continuously nodding her head like a doll on a spring. She had been suffering like this for 5 days with clenched teeth and without closing her eyes for a moment. When Negoiță appeared, the princess stopped nodding and began screaming, "Away! Drive him away!" Negoiță didn't wait for more. He turned around, intended to leave, but the princess grabbed his hand and the prince approached his daughter. "Here I am." "Not you! Bring my daddy! I am your daddy," said the weeping old wretch with hot tears. But the girl screaming even louder, "No, you're not! You're ugly! Bring Captain Manoli!" At such insane words, the princess fainted. Had Negoiță not caught her in his arms, she would have fallen flat. The ladies of the court rushed and took her to rub her with vinegar-soaked cloths and wave smoldering feathers under her nose. Meanwhile, the poor prince began beating his fists against his turban, while the girl screamed louder and louder, "Bring me my daddy! Bring Captain Manoli! I want him!" Finally, Negoiță said to the prince aside, "Your Majesty, with such mad patience, we must humor them for now. If we resist, we provoke them further. Therefore they brought Captain Manoli. Rarely such a warrior, tall, broad-shouldered and mustached, a proud Arna, dressed entirely in silk from head to toe, for splendor fitting any royal court, with his beautiful mustache soaked in tears. Captain Manoli, the faithful servant, approached the lady, and the little miss, as soon as she saw him, suddenly relaxed, smiled sweetly, and like any obedient child begging their father kindly for a favor, said to him with much tenderness, 'Daddy, I beg you, Daddy, if you love me, cut off Negoiț's nose and ears and drive him away like a cheeky fellow, for he is fat, greedy, and ungrateful. Don't let me see him in my eyes again, for I cannot tolerate him. Captain Manoli naturally loved the princess with all his heart, but such a great favor he couldn't do without the master's permission, and Negoiț thought so. That's how it is. Fine, then turned to the prince and said, Your Majesty, let everyone move aside, let me examine the patient more closely. Everyone made space, and Negoiț went straight to the mad princess, who was raging, and whispered softly, I suggest you leave willingly.
Is that so? You don't want. And he moved to grasp her hand. Then the princess spat in his face and slapped him so hard that Negoiț's eyes watered. He wiped his face with his sleeve and turning to the prince, said, Your Majesty, this possession here comes with a twist unlike any I've encountered before. I can do nothing for now. I need help. I have here in Bucharest, in the Negoiță district, a female friend skilled in pulling strings and handling tantrums. She is the widow of a man who squandered his fortune in excess and debauchery. He ended up broke, took to the road, and left the poor innocent woman starving. Her name is Acrivița Ianuloaia, Haji Canuț's daughter. At these words, the princess suddenly ceased screaming and began trembling, clattering like in fever. Therefore, I beg your majesty to order immediately to harness the horses to fetch Ianuloaia right away. He tried to take a step, but the princess tightly gripped his coat and desperately yelling, Stay, Negoiță, and why prolong the story now? For a tale, however beautiful, if too long becomes tiresome. The girl seemed as if she had only dreamed of being ill. She quickly recovered, dressed beautifully, and happily went for a stroll with the princess in an open carriage. 4 horsemen with outriders, 12 Arnauds riding ahead waving their skirts, and as many behind. And Manoli up on the box, right hand on the saber hilt in the sheath and left hand twisting his mustache. And the prince's heart was full of joy as he watched the carriage fly far away from the window. Negoiță remained as a guest at court. About the 3rd day, remembering he had other errands in Bucharest, he went straight to the Negoiță district to track down Ianuloaia. The beautiful houses had been sold by creditors. Poor thing. Abandoned by her husband, she now lived with her father, with the old Hagi. There finding her, he was stunned by such beauty, especially how she now behaved, fully covered from head to toe. After kissing her hand, he said, Look, my lady, I know I owe Kir Ianulea 100 gold coins. Yesterday I learned of your misfortune, and I brought the debt. Here, the lady began to cry and asked if he knew anything about what had happened to her husband, for she couldn't take it anymore. He was burning. She would die of longing for him. Negoiță replied he knew nothing. He begged the lady to accept permanent ownership of his vineyard at Cuțul de Argint, handing her the deed sealed with the royal stamp. To free himself once and for all from the doctor's duty, added,
My lady, I have seen much good from your husband. In honor and remembrance of him, I want to teach you something that at the right opportunity will lift you well from poverty. Listen, I beg you, carefully. Whenever you hear that the devil has entered any woman, wife, daughter, no matter from where or what race, immediately go there, for he won't leave her until you chase him away. Save the sufferer, only this, as if meeting your husband. Aha! So you were hiding here, Ion Luca, and I was searching for you like a madwoman. My light, the world's solace. Where do you know these words from? Asked the lady, looking at him cross-eyed. I learned them long ago from a friend, answered Negoiță, smiling at the lady's gaze. He added, Just say that, then embrace her. Look at us so beautifully as you are looking at me now. Kiss her passionately and don't release her from love until she is completely cured. Naturally, according to the patient's condition, your effort won't be in vain. Got it. Got it. Now remain well, my lady. May you hear good news. After this, Negoiță returned to court, where he stayed another 4 or 5 days, indulging in comforts and great honor. The prince and princess gifted him 3 bags of ibrishim, each contain 1,000 gold pieces. And the princess a ring with a gemstone the size of a Turkish hazelnut, and with great ceremony they escorted him all the way to the bottom of the stairs. Captain Manoli begged the rulers to accompany Negoiță home. On the road, the captain cared for him like a brother day and night, singing to him from his mouth and playing Turkish tunes and songs of mountain warriors, which he played remarkably. Tired from the journey, they had drunk a bit too much from the bottles. The captain, despite being such a mighty palikar, suddenly overwhelmed by emotion, burst into tears like a woman, and falling to his knees, said to his host, "I am poor, Bemu. I have nothing valuable to gift you, but only God and my soul know how thankful I am. For if the girl had died, the sword you see here, I would have driven it into my chest. For without this child, what would become of poor Manoli, pitiful Manoli?"
And began to kiss Negoiță's hands, and begged him to accept a pair of prayer beads from Jerusalem, while Captain Manoli poured out tears of gratitude far away in Bucharest. The Metropolitan was mourning the pain of one of his granddaughters who had begun to have fits. But divine mercy didn't let him weep too long for the love of menservant. As soon as Lady Acrivița entered the bell tower passage, the young girl's illness seemed to vanish, and thus spoke blessed Ion Luca when she left, blessed and sufficiently thanked from the Metropolitan. That very night, in the depths of hell, the demons gathered before Dardarot to hear Aghiuță, who had returned at last with his tail between his legs, exhausted from fatigue. He recounted all his sufferings there more vividly and beautifully than I could narrate to you. The emperor was immensely amused and said, laughing, "Now I understand how things went. Bless you, dear Aghiuță. You behave beautifully. I have nothing to say. What do you wish as a reward for all this toil?" "Your darkness, as a reward, I dare to request 2 favors. Speak, my dear boy." "First, never let Acrivița and Negoiță come here. Let them go to heaven, to reconcile with St. Peter as best they can." "Done." "And the second, allow me to rest a little at home. For I am worn out from all the earthly tasks." "Done." "And that too. You have the right to sleep for 300 years from now on without anyone disturbing you with anything." Saying this, Dardarot kicked him, as was his custom, and sent him off to bed. And thus Lady Acrivița and Negoiță each went their ways to heaven, while Aghiuță lay down to sleep, and likely still sleeps, unless by now the little devil has woken up to start meddling with who knows what devilry again.